Discover the incredible moment. She awoke in the billionaire CEO's embrace, calling him ours. Sarah stirred from a deep sleep, the warmth of Lucas's arms wrapping around her like a soft blanket. The sun peeked through the curtains, casting a gentle glow around the room. It felt surreal, like a dream she never wanted to wake from. She blinked, focusing on Lucas's face, the strong jaw, the messy hair, that smile that could light up the darkest days. And then, she blurted, ours. The word hung in the air, filled with a sweetness that tasted like hope and a little bit of fear. Just a month ago, she was serving pancakes, chasing after her spirited 5-year-old daughter, Lily, and scraping by in the small diner of her Midwestern town. But now, here she was, tangled in the sheets with a billionaire. It was the kind of whirlwind romance that left her breathless. Over the past few weeks, after a community fundraiser that brought her laughter and a connection she never anticipated, her life shifted. Their late-night talks blended dreams with laughter, peeling back layers of lives so different yet intertwining. Lucas would gaze at her like she was the answer to his biggest business dilemma. She felt seen, cherished, but reality pierced her bubble. In quiet moments, like during her shifts at the diner while balancing plates and ignoring gossip, the whispers seeped in. Good-hearted friends were concerned, warning her of the precariousness of loving a man who lived in a world of luxury and privilege. Every time she heard the criticisms echoing in her mind, her heart wavered, unsure. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. That day in the diner, the tension was thick. Some regulars voiced their fears openly, questioning her close connection with Lucas, branding him an outsider. It won tea last, they said, exchanging narrowed eyes and muttered comments. At a town hall, the atmosphere crackled with disapproval as Lucas walked in, head held high, yet his presence, a stark contrast against their familiar backdrop, felt like a sharp knife through the heart of community comfort. As soon as the confrontation erupted, a part of Sarah felt sick, torn between the life she had fought for and the love blooming like wildflowers in a vacant lot. She knew Lucas was genuine, he saw her value beyond titles and bank accounts. But standing there, fighting for their bond against a tide of judgment, the weight felt heavy, crushing in a way she never imagined. Still, there was a flicker of hope deep inside her. A secret kissed her heart, one she protected, locked away to shield Lily, a tiny soul unaware of the complexities around her. But it was time to confront the past, letting it breathe in a day where struggles could shape a brighter future. In that moment, she realized what ours would mean, bound together in community and love. Would they brave the storm? Or would the chains of her childhood regrets break the newfound spirit they created together? As tears threatened her resolve, she finally grasped the urgency. It takes courage to nurture love while rooted in a place that felt like both home and prison. What would it mean for them, for her daughter, if they faced the world together, hand in hand, mixing dreams with quiet strength? As the morning light filtered through the curtains, Sarah felt a rush of conflicting emotions surge within her. She leaned over to watch Lucas sleep, his features softened in slumber, and for a moment, she allowed herself to relish the comfort of his presence. She wanted to believe in the magic they had created together, but the whispers of doubt crowded her mind. What would happen when reality demanded they confront the unspoken barriers between their worlds? Gently, she brushed her finger against his cheek, awakening him from his dreams. His eyelids fluttered open, and a smile spread across his face, brightening the room more than the sunlight. "Good morning, beautiful," he murmured, his voice rich and soothing like warm cocoa. "Morning," she replied, her heart fluttering. They shared a moment wrapped in the cocoon of their affection, and in that brief silence, Sarah felt the weight of her worries lift, if only slightly. "Listen, I was thinking, maybe we could take Lily to that amusement park this weekend?" Lucas suggested, his eyes sparkling with excitement. I want her to see how fun it can be to spend a day just being kids. Sarah's heart sank a little as she considered it. Oh, you don't have to. I want to, he insisted gently, intertwining his fingers with hers. I want to be a part of her life, of your life. Just tell me if I'm moving too fast. No, she whispered, conflicted. It's a small town. People talk. The reality of her community pulled at her, a weight she struggled to shake off. What would they think of you hanging out with us? Lucas frowned, concern etching deep lines across his forehead. Let them talk. I'm here for you both. His gaze softened, but the shadows of doubt hovered behind it. I don't want you to feel trapped because of what they think. Her heart swelled at his words and crumbled simultaneously. It was an ambiguous cocoon of support and pressure that made her feel unworthy of his affection. I know. But if they see us together, with you being they might not understand. I'm not asking for their approval, Sarah, Lucas replied firmly. Just your trust. I'm not abandoning you to face them alone. You have to let me in. Let us be a family. The word family hung in the air like a promise. The mention of Lily made Sarah's heart ache sweetly. She wanted to give Lily a life full of laughter and love, not one suffocated by judgment. Yet, the thought of putting her daughter under the scrutiny of small-town life filled her with dread. Suddenly, her phone buzzed on the nightstand, pulling her from her thoughts. It was a message from a friend, someone who had always been in her corner but seemed increasingly concerned. Saw Lucas at the diner last night. You sure about this? Just be careful, okay? A chill washed over Sarah as she read the words. Let's take it slow, she muttered, her heart pounding nervously. Maybe we shouldn't rush into anything. Lucas's smile faded slightly, and the warmth of the moment felt tarnished. Whatever you want, Sarah. He didn't push further, but she could see it in his eyes. He wanted more. They spent the day entwined in quiet conversations, but the weight of her decision loomed over them. They were walking a tightrope, and one misstep could unravel the fragile bond they had built. As night approached, she looked over at Lucas, his silhouette framed by the fading light. What happens if the town doesn't accept us? She finally asked, her voice barely a whisper. He turned to her, and the intensity in his gaze sent a shiver down her spine. Then we show them what love looks like. Together. I'm not afraid of their judgment, Sarah. Are you? The question pierced through her defenses, and she realized that perhaps she was more afraid to lose him than to face the whispers. She took a deep breath, ready to embrace the unknown. But just as the first flickers of hope ignited within her, the doorbell rang. The sound echoed ominously through the house, and fear twisted uncomfortably in her stomach. What if it was someone from the town, here to stir the pot? Lucas looked at her with concern. And she knew they were about to face a new challenge. Sarah's heart raced as she exchanged a glance with Lucas. The air felt thicker, filled with tension. She could feel her pulse thumping in her ears, drowning out the chirping of the crickets outside. For a fleeting moment, she considered not answering. Maybe they could pretend they weren't home. But with an anxious sigh, she pushed herself off the bed and headed toward the door, her every step heavy with uncertainty. Lucas followed closely behind, his presence both comforting and intimidating. As she opened the door, she braced for impact, unsure of what or who would follow through. Standing there was Karen, her neighbor and longtime family friend, a casserole dish in hand. Hi, Sarah. She chirped, a smile on her face and her voice sweet as honey. But it didn't reach her eyes. I thought I'd bring you this. You know, just in case you were forgetting to eat. Sarah forced a smile while internally cringing. The gesture felt genuine, but Karen always had an implicit agenda. Thanks, Karen, that's really sweet of you, she said, her voice even, but the edges caught in a nervous tension. Just thought I'd check in, Karen continued, her gaze flitting over to Lucas. And who's this? There was an edge to her tone, a calculated curiosity that went beyond innocent interest. This is Lucas, Sarah replied, but the words felt stuck in her throat. She hesitated, not knowing how to introduce him without revealing too much. He's just a friend. Nice to meet you, Lucas, Karen said with a nod, but her expression still wore suspicion. She seldom trusted anyone who didn't fit the mold of the small-town expectations. Likewise, Lucas said, his voice steady yet warm. He didn't back down, standing taller beside Sarah, ready to defend their bubble from any prying questions. Karen looked back at Sarah, searching for something in her face that wasn't there. I just want what's best for you and Lily, she said softly, her demeanor shifting slightly. You know how people can be. I just don't want you getting hurt. Thank you, Karen, Sarah replied, the weight of the sentiment settling heavily on her heart. But I'm okay. Karen seemed to linger for a moment longer, her eyes darting back to Lucas. Well, if you ever need anything, just let me know, she said, turning to leave, casting one last glance over her shoulder. Take care. As the door closed, Sarah leaned against it, letting out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. That felt like a minefield, she murmured, her heart hammering in her chest. Lucas chuckled lightly, though she could sense the residual tension in him. She wasn't so bad, he said, but Sarah caught the tightness in his tone. People aren't subtly watching us, Sarah replied, running her hands through her hair. It's going to be like this everywhere we go. He stepped closer, concern etched across his features. Are you okay? I don't know, she admitted, emotion gripping her chest. Maybe I'm just scared of what's coming next. What if it gets worse? Then we tackle it together, just like we talked about, Lucas said, reaching for her hand, grounding her. I'm all in, remember? A flicker of warmth ignited within her, but it clashed with the cynicism creeping in at the edges of her thoughts. What if it's not enough? What if the town pushes back harder than we expect? Then we keep pushing back, Lucas replied, his voice unwavering. We fight for what we believe in, for you and Lily, for us. His fiery determination washed over her, filling her heart with hope but also igniting a fresh wave of trepidation. Could they truly face the storm together? But even as they clung to each other's presence, a deep sense of unease lingered in the air. A pit formed in her stomach as she envisioned the gossip that would circulate the very next day. Could their love fare against the chains of small-town judgment? Suddenly, the phone buzzed again, interrupting their silence. Sarah hesitated, fear creeping in again as she reached for it. The moment she unlocked the screen, her heart dropped. An anonymous number flashed back at her, and the words were sharp as daggers. You think you can just waltz in here with him? Just wait. We won't forget. She swallowed hard, her breathing quickening. Lucas stepped closer, reading the shock on her face. What is it? Before she could answer, the doorbell rang again, causing her to jump. Tension filled the room once more, the sweet facade of her cozy house cracked wider open. With her heart racing and fear choking her throat, she faced Lucas, knowing that whatever lay ahead could change everything. What if this is just the beginning? She whispered, half afraid of the answer. It is, he replied, the intensity in his gaze sending chills down her spine. And it's time we confront it. They exchanged a determined glance, setting the stage for an impending battle. With her heart pounding, Sarah took a cautious step toward the front door. An icy breeze slipped inside, a reminder that the outside world was waiting, judgment in hand. Lucas squeezed her hand tighter, a silent promise that they would face whatever was behind that door together. Are you ready? His eyes searched hers, seeking encouragement even as he exuded strength. I guess we have to be, she replied, barely above a whisper. Her voice trembled as she reached for the doorknob, steeling herself. As she pulled the door open, the sight before them sent a jolt through her. There stood Ben, a figure from her past, tall and imposing. The composed expression he wore could have crumbled mountains, but the burning intensity in his eyes held a different kind of power altogether. "Sarah." His voice flowed like thick syrup, both smooth and unnerving. "We need to talk." "Ben?" Her heart raced. What was he doing here? The weight of unspoken history hung awkwardly between them. "I didn't mean to intrude, but it's important." He shifted his gaze to Lucas. "I need to speak with you, too." "Not without me," Sarah shot back, unwilling to let anyone dictate the terms of this conversation, especially not a man who had once made her feel small. "Fine," Ben said, his lips curling into a grin that set her nerves on edge. "But this is bigger than you think. We all know things are complicated now." "Complicated?" she asked, anger flaring. "What do you mean?" "Your choice to be with him." His gesture toward Lucas felt like a slap. "There are consequences to your actions. And they're coming." Lucas beside her tensed, ready to step in. But Sarah raised a hand, feeling the fire inside her. "You don't get to threaten me, Ben. I'm not afraid of you anymore." "Maybe you should be," he replied, confidence spilling from every word. "The town will have its say." "And I enough." Lucas interrupted. The calm in his voice barely concealed the storm brewing within him. "We're standing by our choices. Whatever the town thinks won't change what we feel." The moment hung thick with tension, palpable and charged. Sarah could see Ben's expression shift, a flicker of surprise mingling with resentment. "It's not just about feelings, though, is it? It's about safety and reputation. You're inviting trouble into your lives." "Maybe trouble is worth it," Sarah retorted, emboldened by Lucas's presence. "Maybe we're tired of playing it safe. Or maybe you're too blind to see the danger," he said, taking a step back, his eyes narrowing. "You think you can just ignore the consequences? How naive." The accusation stung. For a moment, doubt flitted across Sarah's face, but Lucas steadied her. "We're not naive," he said firmly. "We believe in each other, and that gives us strength." Ben's lip curled in disdain. "Suit yourselves. But I tried to warn you." With that, he turned and walked away, leaving a swirling maelstrom of uncertainty behind him. The door clicked shut, sealing them inside once more. Sarah's breath quickened as the reality of Ben's warning settled in the air. "Do you think he means it? That things really could get worse?" Lucas pulled her into his embrace, enveloping her in warmth. "I don't know what tomorrow will bring, but I know we can handle it. Together. If we let fear control us, they win." His confidence wrapped around her like a comforting blanket, yet a drip of worry still nestled in her gut. What if that is what happens? What if we can't keep fighting? "There's a storm coming, but we're tougher than it," he said, pulling back to look into her eyes. "We won't let them defeat us. We're writing our own story now." But as the words left his lips, a loud crash thundered from the back of the house, cutting through the seriousness like glass shattering in silence. Sarah's heart sank. "Did you hear that?" She breathed, the dread returning swiftly. Lucas nodded, the lines of his face tightening with resolve. "Let us check it out. Whatever it is, we'll face it together." With their hands intertwined, they stepped toward the unknown, both aware that the next chapter of their lives was unfolding rapidly, the stakes higher than ever. "What do you think is waiting for us?" Sarah asked, her voice barely more than a whisper. "Honestly? I have no idea," Lucas replied, his heart racing alongside hers. "But we're not backing down whatever it takes." They exchanged resolute glances, determination igniting between them as they pushed the door open, ready to confront whatever lay ahead. As they stepped into the dimly lit kitchen, an uneasy silence enveloped the room. The crash that had sent their hearts racing now felt like a distant echo, overshadowed by an apprehensive pause. Sarah's pulse quickened as she took in the scene. The back door swung slightly on its hinges, one of the wood panels splintered and jagged, hanging like an unfinished puzzle piece. The cool air let in an unsettling chill, rustling the nearby curtains and sending a shiver down her spine. It felt like an unwelcome visitor had made themselves known, and that visitor might not be just a physical force. "Lucas," she whispered, gripping his hand tighter as she moved closer. "What do you think happened?" "I don't know. But we need to be careful," he said, scanning the room with sharp, vigilant eyes. "Stay close." The two cautiously approached the door, peering into the shadows beyond. A gust of wind swung it wider, unsettling Sarah, but Lucas remained steady. His brow furrowed, the lines of determination etched deep. "Look," he whispered, pointing to something on the floor near the door. It was a stone, smooth and oddly lighting up under the flutter of the curtain. It felt almost out of place, like a token from another world. "What is that?" Sarah asked, feeling the temperature drop even lower. Before Lucas could respond, a figure darted past the window. They both jumped, hearts in their throats. Adrenaline surged through Sarah, her breath hitching. "Did you see that?" "Yeah," Lucas replied, eyes narrowing. "Stay behind me. Let us get a better look." They stepped outside, the wooden porch creaking under their feet. The night pressed down like a heavy blanket, stars twinkling above but unable to pierce the tension surrounding them. Where could they have gone? Sarah's voice trembled, torn between fear and curiosity. "Hey!" Lucas called out, his voice booming in defiance of the hushed night. "Show yourself." Silence answered, thick and heavy. The darkness seemed to pulse, shadows becoming alive as if they played tricks on the mind. Just when Sarah thought her heart might burst from her chest, a light flickered from the tree. A flashlight? A moment later, laughter echoed low and ominously. "Lucas, what if it's Ben?" Sarah asked, recalling his parting words that lingered like a threatening storm. "What if he's behind this?" "I doubt it's just Ben," Lucas replied, tensing. "But we need to find out who it is and why they're here." Just then, a rustle in the bushes caught their attention. Out stepped a hunched figure, hands raised, revealing a familiar face. "Guys!" Katie, their mutual friend, came into view, breathless and wide-eyed. "I was looking for you. You won't believe what I heard. What is it?" Lucas asked, sensing the alarm in her tone. "It's about Ben," she began, glancing over her shoulder as if expecting danger. "And the town. There's something big happening. Something that could threaten all of us." The night seemed to close in further, heavy with ambiguity. Sarah's heart raced as dread settled in her gut, amplifying the weight of their choices. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice barely rising above a whisper. Katie glanced behind her again, anxiety etching her features. "We need to go. Now. I'll explain everything on the way." With urgency in their steps, they followed Katie, leaving the shattered remnants of safety behind. "What's out there?" Sarah couldn't help but whisper, her heart drumming wildly in her chest. Katie's eyes darted, filled with fear and uncertainty. "A storm is coming. And it's bigger than any of us could have imagined." As they moved into the shadows, uncertainty wrapped around them tighter than ever. Sarah's mind raced with questions. Could they truly navigate this treacherous path? Or was this just the beginning of their fight? With the weight of the night pressing down, the thunderous uncertainty of their choices loomed before them, the story unfolding in ways none of them could have ever anticipated. They hurried down the overgrown path leading into the woods, each step fueled by a mixture of fear and curiosity. The trees whispered secrets as the wind danced through the branches, adding a haunting melody to their chaotic thoughts. "What do you know about Ben?" Lucas urged Katie, his voice taut with urgency. He turned his head slightly, trying to catch a glimpse of their surroundings even as they moved forward. "Not much, just what I overheard at the diner," Katie replied, her breath coming in quick bursts. She shot a nervous glance back, ensuring no one was following too closely. There's talk of some weird gatherings at the old mill. People see shadows, strange lights. It's got everyone in town on edge. Why haven't we heard about this before? Sarah interjected, bewildered. We should have noticed something was wrong. It's our town, after all. Sometimes, we become blind to what's right in front of us, Katie said softly, her eyes glistening with unshed fear. It's easier to ignore the bad stuff than to confront it. A crack echoed through the trees, and they froze, hearts pounding in their chests. All three of them exchanged worried glances. What was that? Lucas whispered, gripping Sarah's hand even tighter. Just a branch. I think, Katie said, but her voice lacked conviction. They continued, hearts heavy as they pressed farther into the woods. Sarah could feel the darkness wrapping around them, pitying their innocence, mocking their naivety. The tales of ghosts and lost souls felt suddenly too real, and she wanted nothing more than to turn back. But something kept them moving forward, an invisible thread urging them deeper into danger. Wait, Katie said abruptly, and they halted. I heard something else, a conversation earlier. They mentioned a ritual, something about unleashing chaos. Chaos? Sarah's voice danced on the edge of disbelief, but a chill prickled her skin. Katie nodded gravely. They said it would change everything. That they were somehow connected to the old stones. Before she could finish, another rustling came from the underbrush, more intense this time, and they all stepped back instinctively. Maybe we should head back, Lucas suggested, his voice low but urgent. No, we need to find out what's really going on, Katie protested, a fierce determination flooding her tone. If Ben is involved, we can't leave him hanging. We can't let whatever is happening continue. All right, but we need to be aware, Lucas said, jaw tight. They moved cautiously again, the shadows stretching across the ground as if trying to reclaim their light. The deeper they ventured, the more a heaviness pressed down on them, fear, yes, but also dread mixed with an electric anticipation that gnawed at Sarah's insides. Do you hear that? Katie suddenly whispered, her eyes widening. A distant chanting floated through the trees, rhythmic and eerie. Sarah's heart raced quicker as it resonated eerily in her ears, wrapping around her thoughts like a vice. What do we do? She breathed, her panic rising. Keep moving, Lucas urged again, pushing through the last few sets of trees. They emerged into a clearing, and the moonlight illuminated an old stone altar at the center, surrounded by dark figures. The air was thick, almost cloying, as the chanting grew louder, rising and falling like a sinister tide. Then Katie said, breathless. He's in there. What if they see us? Sarah pleaded, pulling away from Lucas gently. Lucas hesitated, his face a mask of conflicted emotions. We need to get proof of what's happening. Before they could hatch a plan, one of the figures turned, and their eyes met. The chanting stopped abruptly. Run! Lucas shouted, shattering the silence. The three friends tore back into the woods, the sound of their footsteps frantic and punctuated by their racing hearts. Shadows flitted among the trees, reminding them that whatever chaos was unleashed had already begun. Why did they stop? Sarah yelled over her shoulder, fear lacing her voice. Because we're too close, Lucas shouted back. We need to warn everyone before it's too late. But as they disappeared into the night, the shadows behind them stirred, and one thought echoed in Sarah's mind: what if they were more than just shadows? What if they were coming for them too? The urgency of their escape pushed them faster, yet with every step, dread settled deeper. They might just have walked unknowingly into a storm that could consume everything they loved. What if escaping was the last thing they would ever do? Branches whipped at their faces as they sprinted through the underbrush, the breathless panic making every heartbeat sound like thunder in Sarah's ears. Lucas led the way, darting to the left to avoid a low-hanging limb, with Katie and Sarah close behind. The chanting had stopped, but it felt like the world around them was still tuned into that dark rhythm, thudding beneath their skin. Why do I feel like they're right behind us? Katie gasped, her voice trembling. I don't know, Lucas replied, his urgency fueling him. Just keep moving. The trees seemed to close in around them, like they were losing the safe comfort of daylight with each passing second. It felt like the woods themselves were alive, an entity woven into the chaos that had erupted at the old mill. With every step, Sarah felt a new weight settle on her chest. The fear was palpable. What if they couldn't escape? Wait, Sarah called, her voice catching. Just ahead, the path split into two, each direction cloaked in shadow. Which way? Left, Lucas said immediately, eyes darting back to the dim clearing, as if he could sense the shadows lurking behind them. We need to get to the road. Without hesitation, they veered left. The thick brush crunched beneath their feet, but somehow, a sense of urgency drove them onward. Sarah stole a quick glance back, her heart racing. The silence behind them was eerie. Had they lost the chanting figures? Do you think Ben is safe? Katie asked, fear creeping into her tone. He has to be. Lucas replied. We can't think that way. We have to believe he is okay and find him. They pressed on, but the weight of unsaid worries loomed heavily in the air. A flash of light briefly illuminated the darkness, and their heads whipped around, hearts jumping in sync. What was that? Sarah asked, breath hitching in her throat. I don't know, Lucas whispered, the shadows from the trees stretching toward them like long, sinister fingers. The wood seemed to twist and bend, guiding them toward the edge where they could finally break free. As they neared the road, a crash shattered the silence, reverberating through the trees like an ominous warning bell. They stopped cold, glancing back. The figure from the gathering had emerged, a silhouette standing boldly against the backdrop of the moonlight. The figure raised an arm, and Sarah clenched her teeth, readying herself for another flight. Run! Lucas shouted again, breaking the paralysis that had gripped them. They fled for the road, hearts pounding like drums, adrenaline coursing through their veins. Fireflies flickered in and out of view, but they offered little comfort. In that moment, Sarah wished she could see into the distance, wished for the headlights of a car to pierce through the night's veil. Just as they reached the edge of the woods, a low tune surged from behind them, a haunting melody that seemed to echo the chaos they had witnessed moments before. It wrapped around Sarah, pulling her back, as if the shadows were trying to reclaim her. Suddenly, Katie stumbled, her foot catching on an unseen root, and she fell hard to the ground. Katie! Sarah cried, spinning around, but Lucas quickly dragged her back. No, we can't stop. She can get up. Just go. Panic coursed through Sarah. What if they left her? What if Katie couldn't get back up? Then Katie pulled herself to her feet, brushing dirt off her knees with determination etched on her face. Go. I'm okay. They heard her yell, her voice fierce, with the urgency of a wildfire. They pressed onward, bursting out of the trees and onto the road just as the sounds of chaos from the woods intensified behind them. Where do we go now? Lucas panted, looking frantically left and right. Flynn's gas station is just a mile down, Katie suggested, glancing over her shoulder. But as they started to run along the asphalt, the shadows seemed to swell behind them. What if the gathering finds us? Sarah's voice was barely a whisper, dread clawing at her insides. Their momentary safety felt fragile, and the fear settled like a weight across her shoulders. In that second, she wondered if they would ever be out of reach from the darkness. Did they even have enough time to warn the town? To save Ben? They couldn't dwell on it now, they had to keep running, yet still, deep inside, a question nagged relentlessly: what if this was just the beginning of something far worse? As the gas station lights flickered in the distance, fear clawed at Sarah's heart. Would this refuge hold the answers, or would it plunge them deeper into the chaos? The gas station loomed ahead, its flickering lights casting a warm glow that felt distant and unreal. Each step Sarah took sent a jolt of pain shooting through her legs, but she pushed through. They had to reach Flynn's. They had to find out what lay waiting beyond those doors. Just a bit further. Lucas urged, his voice strong but edged with fatigue. Katie stumbled but caught herself. I see it. She pointed, her eyes wide with determination. We can make it. A blast of wind rustled through the trees behind them, a low growl that made Sarah's skin prickle. What if they were closer than she wanted to believe? Shadows danced menacingly at the edge of her vision, but she forced herself to focus on the light ahead. As they neared the entrance, Sarah felt an uneasy mix of relief and dread. The door swung open with a creak, and the bell jingled, though it felt more like a warning than a welcome. They rushed inside, breathless, hearts still racing. Inside, the gas station felt surreal, a world away from the nightmare outside. Bright fluorescent lights illuminated shelves stocked with snacks and drinks, but the familiarity was stark against the chaos they had just escaped. Is anyone here? Lucas called out, glancing around nervously. His voice echoed slightly, bouncing off the fluorescent-lit tiles. Just keep an eye out, Sarah whispered. Her gaze darted toward the open register, but it was empty, the attendant nowhere in sight. The unease settled in again, heavy like a brick in her stomach. Suddenly, a noise broke through the silence, a rustling from the back room. The three of them exchanged anxious glances. We should check it out, Katie suggested, her voice small but firm. Are you crazy? Sarah shot back, heart racing. What if it's them? But we can't just stand here. What if they come here too? Katie insisted, the tension rising in her voice. Each of them weighed the urgency of the moment. They had already faced so much. They had fought through the woods together. Surely they could take one more step into the unknown. Let us go together, Lucas said decisively. We stick as a team. With a reluctant nod, they crept toward the door leading to the back. The air felt thick, heavy with unspoken fears. Sarah reached for the handle, her fingers trembling slightly. As she opened the door, a blast of cold air rushed past her, sending chills down her spine. The dim hallway beyond ended in shadows, each corner concealing secrets. A few steps in, and there was a crash, followed by the metallic echo of something falling. The adrenaline surged again, and Sarah's heart raced faster. What was that? She gasped. I don't know, Lucas muttered, peering into the darkness. Suddenly, the lights flickered, casting eerie shadows flickering around them. A figure stumbled into view, a lone man, disheveled and wide-eyed. His clothes were dirt-streaked, his face drawn and haggard. Help please, he gasped, voice trembling with desperation. Who are you? Katie asked, backing up slightly, instinctively defensive. Before he could respond, a loud thud echoed from the front of the gas station. The door banged against the wall, an ominous weight settling over them. They're here, the man whispered, eyes darting toward the exit, filled with terror. They felt that weight too. Fear clawed at Sarah's insides as she turned, staring into the shadows gathering at the entrance, shadows that once felt miles away now creeping into their fragile sanctuary. What do we do? Lucas whispered, his eyes wide with panic. Just then, Katie's hand found Sarah's, squeezing tight. In that moment, Sarah realized this wasn't just about escape anymore. It was about standing together, facing whatever darkness lay ahead. And as the shadows surged forward, enveloping the gas station in an unnatural chill, Sarah closed her eyes, clinging to the flicker of hope. What awaited them out there? Were they truly ready for the battle that was swiftly approaching? The echoes of their breaths were drowned out by the growing chaos, and Sarah's heart raced. Was this the moment everything changed? A deafening crash echoed through the gas station, a sound that felt like it could split the air in two. Sarah's heart thudded against her ribcage as she opened her eyes, dread pooling in her stomach. The man at their feet looked back at the door, his expression a mix of horror and urgency. Get back! He yelled, voice sharp and panicked. They'll smell you. Sarah's pulse quickened at his words. The shadows outside shifted as muffled voices began to seep through the wool of her fear. They weren't just after them, they were coming for blood. Lucas instinctively stepped in front of Sarah and Katie. "We need to barricade the door," he shouted, adrenaline kicking in. "No. We can't just wait here," Katie cried, her voice teetering on the edge of hysteria. "We have to find another way out." Dangerously close footsteps grew louder, and Sarah felt the room constrict around her. "There must be a back door," she urged, scanning the walls, desperate for a way out, something to lessen the threat creeping closer. The disheveled man groaned, standing unsteadily. "Follow me. There's a storage area with a trapdoor. But we've got to move." With no time to hesitate, they followed him deeper into the dimly lit gas station. The fluorescent lights flickered again, casting ominous shadows that seemed to dance wickedly across the walls. Every corner could hide something vile, and every shadow felt alive. They plunged through the doorway as the man led them into a cramped storeroom. Shelves lined with dusty cans and old boxes towered around them, congesting the space. It was claustrophobic, but it felt safe, if only for a moment. "Over there." The man pointed to a small, unassuming rectangular outline on the floor, its edges frayed. "That's the trapdoor." Just as he said, the floorboards groaned under Sarah's weight as they all crowded around the door. "Help me get it open," he urged, crouching down to yank at the rusted handle. Katie dropped to her knees, eyes wild. "What if it's locked?" "It's our only shot," Sarah said, echoing their shared fear and urgency. Lucas cranked his shoulder into the door, and resistance greeted him like a stubborn child. "Put your backs into it." With a collective push, the door gave way with a loud creak that reverberated like thunder in their ears. A dark hole yawned back at them, the unknown depths beckoning. "Go!" he yelled, his voice strained as he glanced back towards the entrance where shadows began to take form. One by one, they descended into the void of the trapdoor, clambering down a rickety ladder as fear thrummed in their veins. Sarah felt the cool air rush up to meet them, a brief respite from the chaos. Once at the bottom, her feet hit solid ground, dirt and dust. She looked around at the small underground chamber, dimly lit by a couple of light bulbs. The walls were rough, and cobwebs coated the corners, making it feel suffocating. "Is this it?" Lucas asked, breathless. "I think," the man started, but a sudden loud noise echoed above them, a heavy thud and the unmistakable sound of boots stomping heavily across the room they had just vacated. A numbing silence filled their small enclave, and then panic erupted. The man's face turned grave. "They've found us." Fear spiraled into desperation, and Sarah felt the walls of the chamber close in. She wanted to scream but held it back, instead gripping Katie's hand tight. "What now?" Above them, ominous voices filled the air. They were closing in. Shadows danced above in chaotic bursts, promising that their pursuers weren't going to let up easily. "What do we do?" Katie breathed, her eyes flickering between panic and reality. As Sarah searched her mind for a possible escape route, she realized with chilling certainty, this fight was about more than survival now. It was about confronting their true fears and what lay on the line. And just then, she heard a voice rising above the chaos, clearer than the shadows pressing down on them. "Time to choose, battle or flight." Sarah's heart raced. They had seconds to make a decision. Was this where everything truly began to change? What would they choose? Would they fight against the encroaching darkness or flee deeper into the unknown? The weight of choice crashed against Sarah, pushing her to the edge of resolve. They had come too far to let fear dictate their next steps. "We can't run anymore," she finally declared, her voice steady beneath the rising panic. "We can't let them dictate our lives." Lucas stepped closer, determination etched on his face. "I'm right with you," he said fiercely. His eyes held hers, grounding her in the storm swirling around them. Katie nodded, her expression shifting from fear to fierce resolve. Then we fight. Together. The air buzzed with the electricity of their shared purpose, fueling the bond that had grown stronger amidst chaos. Above them, the voices grew louder, shadows flitting across the trapdoor. We can't let them in, Sarah urged, scanning the chamber for anything they could use to defend themselves. If they come down here I'll block the door, Lucas said, his jaw set with determination. That'll buy us time. You girls look for anything we can use. Okay, Katie said, her eyes lighting with a spark of fearlessness. As Lucas moved toward the trapdoor, Sarah frantically looked through the dusty shelves, hoping for anything, an old toolbox, some heavy cans, anything with weight. Here! She exclaimed, grabbing a metal pipe and handing it to Lucas, who nodded appreciatively. What else? Nothing but junk. Kyle exclaimed in frustration, rummaging through heaps of dust. Then, she spotted a heavy, rusted shovel tucked behind a pile of old boxes. This can be a weapon. She shouted, shining with purpose as she handed it to Katie. Better than nothing, Katie said, gripping the shovel tightly. Suddenly, the footsteps above staggered, then thudded to a halt. The silence hung heavy, a stark reminder that danger was so close. They're strategizing, Lucas breathed, leaning against the door. Sarah felt her heart racing, each second stretching into eternity. We need to catch them off guard. When they come down, we have to be ready. Just as the words left her mouth, a loud crash erupted above them. Get ready! Lucas called, adrenaline roaring through him. The trapdoor creaked ominously as something or someone began to push it open. Swallowing hard, Sarah and Katie positioned themselves, weapons ready. The moment the door swung down, Lucas thrust himself against it, muscles straining. The shadowed figure on the other side paused, their footsteps hesitating. Who's down there? A voice barked. I know you're in there. Come out and face us like real people. Real people? Lucas scoffed, holding the door guard to a ferocious intensity. You mean cowards hiding behind shadows? The figure coughed out a disgusted laugh. You think you can stop us? You think just because you found some rusty tools, you have the upper hand? The trapdoor cracked further open, revealing a face contorted with wrath mixed with uncertainty. It was Ben. He had walked into chaos, but he wouldn't back down. Sarah! He shouted, his voice reverberating with urgency. We need to talk. This isn't safe for you. With utter disbelief swirling in her chest, Sarah stepped forward, raising the shovel against him. You think you can just waltz back into our lives after everything? We don't trust you. She felt brave for standing her ground. I understand, Ben snapped, eyes glinting in the dim light. But this goes beyond our past. The town is unraveling, and I need your help. If we don't work together, we're all going to be swept under. Lucas shifted uncomfortably by the door, tension etched across his brow. If you're lying I'm not, Ben interrupted, desperate. There is more going on than you realize. Please, believe me. As silence pressed in, Sarah looked from Lucas to Katie and back to Ben. The fight still simmering, she could sense a flicker of truth in his voice, glaring against the background of turmoil. What do you know? She asked cautiously, lowering the shovel slightly. What's at stake? Ben's eyes softened, an unexpected glimpse of vulnerability. The old ritual, it's not a game anymore. People are desperate. They're following the chaos, and with what's occurring, it could turn into violence. We need to intervene together. How do we even begin to stop it? Lucas pondered skeptically, but in the depths of his gaze, hope threaded through. A gathering is planned by midnight. If we can reach the old mill with proof of what's happening in town, we can break their hold, Ben proposed, his voice urgent yet steady. But we must act now. The air crackled with electricity, a collective heartbeat throbbing through each of them. Okay, Sarah breathed heavily, adrenaline spiking. But if you betray us again I won't, Ben replied firmly, raising his hands in surrender. They huddled closer, hashing out a plan. We must take back what's ours, Lucas said finally, a fire igniting in his eyes. Not just for ourselves, but for the town and the people we love. With a newfound resolve, their hearts beat as one. They gathered their tools, but this time, it felt less like weapons and more like symbols of unity. It was time to rewrite their narrative, to show the town what courage and love could look like, to outshine the shadows that dared to cower against their light. Together, they ascended from the depths of fear, ready to confront the oncoming storm. As they stepped into the moonlit night, they felt the weight of their choice, the choice to fight for love and community. This was the moment that had changed everything. They would stand and battle for one another and the future they dreamed of. Let us go, Sarah whispered, and with hearts pounding and fears untangled, they faced the horizon, ready to turn the tide against the chaos. But for those watching, one thing remained clear: this was just the beginning of their journey, and the flicker of hope would guide them through the night. To be continued. But don't just sit on the edge of your seat. You need to subscribe now to catch what happens next. Hit that like button now to support our channel and help us keep bringing these incredible stories to you. We want to know how you feel about the ending, so comment below your reactions, your hopes, and what you expect in the next chapter. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Your support means the world and allows us to keep creating magic together.